Well, hi everybody. It's Joe Chaffee. Welcome to tonight's Joe and Joe weather show. We're minus one Joe at the moment because I'm not exactly sure where he is. I assumed that everything was going to be. Oh, here he is. Hang on. Hang on. Hark. 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 Are you there?
Here I
Oh,
am.
hark. Do I
Can
hear a
you hear
foot?
me?
Hark. Do I hear a footfall? Is that you, Don Juan?
Here he is, ladies and gentlemen.
I was wondering what happened to you. You got a shirt on.
Yes, I do.
Do you have a tie?
No, I don't.
Why
But
do you have a
right
shirt?
after we do this at 8 o'clock, I'm going to do my very first COVID-19 virtual presentation for one of the local astronomy groups here in the New York area. And so I've never done this before. And my wife said, well, if you're going to do a nice presentation, you have to look nice. So
So she
I
picked
actually
out a nice
shaved.
shirt.
I
You
actually
sh-
washed my face,
mm-hmm.
So
Did you take a bath?
in other words, well, I took a shower this morning, but
Glory,
I mean,
hallelujah.
basically, I'm not my usual cruddy self tonight.
Well, you can see that I'm my usual cruddy self tonight. I haven't shaved, even where I'm not supposed to have any facial hair. I haven't shaved. The
Yes.
goat, excuse me, the goatee is completely out of control. I have 7 or 8 T-shirts exactly alike, which is what I'm sitting in again in my favorite gray. These Walmart shirts are great. I've had them for years. They don't
Okay.
just don't fall apart. So you've outdressed me today. Okay, I'll have to think about this for tomorrow.
I'll have well, and I've been thinking about it. There probably aren't going to be as many people at this talk that I'm going to be giving in about an hour as opposed to now we have 38 people watching now, but it usually builds, right? To
Yes, we usually
yeah.
build
So
up. Hang
so
on, I got.
anyway,
I just went. I got to fix the screen here. Screen. There we go. Wait, that's you.
that's
No,
me.
no, that didn't work.
That's a me.
Hold on. Where'd you go?
I don't know. Now the whole screen is black.
No, I know. I'm trying to find us. It's just all sorts of weird things are happening. I tested this beforehand, and it was working fine. And
And then I show up and da-da.
hold on, I got to switch the graphics to. Nope, that's not it. Nope, that's not it. Oh boy, hang on. Now the screen is white. Oh, this is, I set it up so that you would be there and everything would be fine and dandy. So let me try this again. Hold on, I'm going to bring you full screen. So let's see if that fixes it. And okay, live Zoom meeting.
Yes.
There you go. Okay, I think I got
Da-da.
you back. Hold on, I had you back. Why is my screen? This is no. Come on, folks, stop. Hold on, something's really monumentally wrong here. All sorts. Oh, we're gonna have a night with all sorts of tech. Is this how it's gonna be tonight? Is it gonna be a night of all sorts of technical issues? Hang on, Mr. Rayo. Oh, God. What the
Da-da-da-da.
hell happened here? You suddenly have become enormous. There, your name's on the screen. All right, you know what? We're going to have to do this a different way. I apologize to everybody. This is not what I had planned. It just worked out. This horror just worked out that way. So let's try. I have to make a new window. And now we're back. Okay. All right. You know what? I'm not even going to fiddle with this. I'm just going to leave us both up here, and then we'll just go from there. Sorry, guys. I know it was a complete waste of time. But you know what? There isn't much weather going on anyway, so Except this upper low, Joe, doesn't get out of the way in the Mid-Atlantic states. The weather today here was another phenomenal day. Mid 50s this morning, low
Yeah.
70s this afternoon, dew points in the 50s. I mean, this was terrific. And then the breeze would pick up every once in a while. You'd feel this cool wind blowing. This is very unusual for Atlanta for this time of year.
Indeed. And if it does happen, it usually doesn't happen for more than a day. And this again is your what, third day down there?
This
Or
is today. Let's see. I got here Monday, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So this is day
yeah,
three. Yes.
isn't that amazing? It is. And
So
up,
you had nice weather where you are. I noticed on the satellite tonight that the clouds made it up to about New York City, at least the northern edge of the clouds, New York City, Long Island. I don't know if it made it further north than that.
well, the thing is with today, it actually you could actually begin to feel the humidity creeping up. I mean, it was not quite as beautiful as it's been the last couple of days, and it was warm. I mean, up here, I didn't see the last I saw mid-afternoon. It was 82 here in uh, Putnam County, but it was a bit cooler. You know, of course, down by Long Island and in New York City. I think we'll finally, really, all of us will feel the humidity tomorrow, and it looks like Joe, for the first time in a while, we're going to have a long string of rather humid days coming up, taking us through the weekend and right on into a good part of next week.
I thought, I looked this morning, at least from the standpoint of the GFS, maybe a lesser extent of the European, that there looked like there would be a couple of weather fronts to deal with later next week. And one pretty sharp looking trough, maybe, if it winds up being that far south. It could be just model overdoing it. But it does seem to want to have a more active northern jet come into play later next week in the long range so that at least it breaks whatever we start to get into tomorrow and Friday and Saturday and Sunday. Um, I think the biggest risk at worst, at least into Monday, is whether there'll be some pop up showers or a thunderstorm. Not so much tomorrow, maybe a couple of isolated ones tomorrow morning in a few spots. Probably a slightly better chance Friday, a chance on Saturday, maybe not so much on Sunday, and then maybe a chance late Monday. That's kind of how I figured it, how I looked at it.
You know, overall, in this type of a pattern, I mean, I know you're trying to be a little bit um, more precise here, specifics, like a little bit for this day and maybe not so much that day. I just would broad brush the whole thing and
Well,
say, look, it's going to be humid, it's going to be warm. Each day there's a chance of something. Most of the time it'll be dry, and that's it. And if you don't like it, lump
tough
it.
toenails, yeah. This thing just keeps spinning around. This upper low here, it's going to finally get ejected to the northeast over the next couple of days. But the upside is that on the back side of it, which is where I am, we've been getting this drier air that's come down. And of course, you also had, Joe, another one of these upside down days where it was actually warmer the further north you went than it was if you went south.
Right.
Temperatures 70s in that cloud cover, even 60s in some places in the Carolinas where it was overcast all day and where they had to deal with rain. One of our regulars, Quincy, messaged me saying that where he is in eastern North Carolina, 6 inch plus rainfalls. They had to bring in EMS people to help evacuate folks out from all the heavy rains of the last couple of days. But none of that is moving northward. None of it.
Right. It just keeps spinning its wheels, so to speak. And so long as it does that, there's really isn't going to be all that much change. But eventually things do change. If it's not going to just simply roll out, they'll just simply erode, if you will.
Yeah,
Like as Tex Antoine used to use the analogy, like a lump of ice cream on a hot tin, and eventually, it just becomes just a big mass of
nothing.
nothing.
You actually got some showers across central, in east west across central Pennsylvania this evening. A little band developed late this afternoon and now runs east west across the state, but nothing over New Jersey. Clearly, nothing over New England where it is quiet. And then, of course, you've had these bands down in Virginia, North Carolina. They've moved a little bit further north this evening, seeing some heavy downpours in the Delmarva Peninsula, southern Delaware. Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Northeast, Northern Virginia, back into Western Maryland, and they're still all moving more northwest. And Johnny Quest has been dealing with some heavy rains in the mountains of Western Virginia, along and northwest of I-81, and we've got some rains down I-85, which is my new favorite highway. I'm sorry, I-75, which is my new favorite highway. And there's some heavy rains going on right now down through. I'm sorry, I got the wrong road, Joe. I'm messing this up. I'm not exactly sure what route this is that runs through West Virginia and into Western Virginia. Um, I'm going to say 77. I think it's 77. And there's some heavy rains there. 75 is further east. That comes down through Cincinnati and then runs through eastern Kentucky into eastern Tennessee. There's not much going on there. Sorry about that.
Clear to Cincinnati.
Clean to Cincinnati, yes. And of course, in the southeast, it's not doing much in Georgia today. A few rain showers in western North Carolina. Seeing a little bit of activity in northeast Florida and over southern Florida. And going west, action in parts of West Texas. The severe weather risk tonight is to the north. We've got a slight risk of severe weather eastern North Dakota, northwestern Minnesota, cutting across South Dakota into northern Nebraska. Small area of marginal risk in northeastern North Carolina and Virginia, and also a marginal risk zone in West Texas. And we saw what's on the radar there right now. So other than that, there really isn't too much to worry about. One thing, the severe weather over the next few days, the risk of severe weather is not really all that much. There's marginal risk from Minnesota to Kansas tomorrow, and some general thunderstorm activity moving up into the northeast, and a marginal risk on Friday in northwest Texas, western Oklahoma, southern Kansas. But other than that, it looks like the severe weather season's kind of taken a step back this week. Things have calmed down, at least for now, and probably winding down to a large extent over the traditional severe weather areas. Speaking of severe weather, you might be hearing my grandson wailing and gnashing of teeth at the moment, as they are
I
known to
do.
do.
I do. I do.
He's getting close to his bedtime, and he just had his bath.
I hope your
Oh,
ribs turned out well last night.
oh, they were outrageous. They were so good.
Hmm.
I followed one of my son-in-law's method of making them, and they turned out perfect. I of course did. Of course improved on it, which is not as if there's a doubt that they wouldn't be better. Um, but they were really good. Weak low on the surface map in Northeast Virginia. Weak high in Pennsylvania. Weak high out over the Gulf of Maine. And again, today, temperatures middle to upper 80s in central and northern New England, 70s down to Pennsylvania, 60s in Virginia, upper 60s and low 70s across North and South Carolina, low to mid 70s in northern Georgia, where we had just clouds and no rain today. But yeah, a little bit of an upside down day going on along the East Coast.
Yeah, it was again. As I said yesterday, this pattern that we're moving into now is reminiscent to me of many summers back in the 70s, where we now are entering a situation where we're going to have just day in and day out of moderate to maybe at times even high levels of humidity, the occasional thunderstorm risk in the afternoon and early evening, and temperatures. At least it's not going to be brutally hot.
Right.
That's one thing I just simply cannot tolerate is extreme heat. It looks like temperatures, though, mostly in the 80s. I think we may get close to 90 here in the tri-state area about Monday or Tuesday of next week. Um,
Well, I'll be back probably on Tuesday.
oh, so you're going to bring the normally sultry southern weather up with you when
No,
you arrive.
I'll bring the cool southern weather that I have now
I'd love
and
it.
bring it back.
Ah,
Rainfall wise, not too much in the Northeast. Most of it's going to be thunderstorm, pop up thunderstorm driven over the next week or so. Although we may have a cold front at some point, maybe around the middle part of next week to enhance activity a bit. A lot of rain being indicated over Central and South Florida over the next 7 days, several to 6 inches in some places. Virginia, North Carolina, still waiting for this upper low to wind down, so they've got more rain issues to deal with into tomorrow before this thing pulls away to the northeast. Up through the plains from Oklahoma to Minnesota, several inches of rain possible there. A little bit up in the northern Rockies and the extreme Pacific Northwest. And the rest of what's left is the Southwest and California, which is bone dry for the next week.
Yes,
And that's all there is to it.
that's all there is to it, really. Anything on the tropics? Our friend Captain Kirk from Weather Trends 360 about a week ago said that he thought that we'd have a couple of weeks of a respite from any kind of tropical activity. Although, you know, Joe, this upper low that's down over the Virginias and Carolinas, I mean, that's not a tropical system, but you know, you could almost if things were just a little different, you could almost call it a subtropical, an inland subtropical storm.
I mean, to an extent, yeah, I guess it is definitely cold core. It just, there is a surface low that's going to develop with it, but it's not going to have that much time to do anything. As far as the tropics are concerned in the Pacific, on the Pacific side, there's a disturbance out well off the coast of Mexico, which they're only giving a 20% chance. Hurricane Center is over the next 5 days. And the Atlantic was highlighting two weather systems, one off the Florida coast and another tropical wave approaching the southern windwards of Trinidad and Tobago. But they've actually wiped those completely off since they gave those systems a 0% chance of developing. So no new tropical cyclones are expected during the next 5 days. So yes, the respite continues. And you know what, Mr. Rayo, there's nothing really new as far as what I saw on the models today, as opposed to what was on them yesterday. There is a Pacific tropical system that looks like it may get going at some point, maybe next weekend, if you want to believe the long range. The rest of the tropics are just kind of quiet. I figured I just might as well start with this, and then I'll switch regions. But just want to give you a look here. We'll use the North America view. And again, there's not a whole lot that's different other than the fact that we are seeing a bit of a change for next week. As we go through next week, that the northern part of the jet stream from Canada is going to get a little more active, and that will probably allow for at least some cold fronts to get through. Here's your situation, of course, with what's happening now. Your upper low opens up and weakens and gradually lifts out to the northeast on Friday into Saturday. You have a basically southwest flow from the southern Rockies to southern Canada, and as we move into next week, you start to see a trough with an upper low that dives into the Great Lakes. You know, you look at this. I'm just looking at this, Joe, in the GFS, which has a several contour cutoff in over Michigan by Wednesday and Thursday of next week. That's pretty impressive troughing that it develops here. So I think it's going to try to bring a cold front at least close to us for the middle part of next week. And then that upper low just kind of lifts out, and eventually the whole trough lifts out, so that when we get into the first few days of July, if you want to believe, the models, it builds a big ridge into southeastern Canada and northern New England, and also shows a cutoff low southeast of Cape Cod. But of course, this is long range nonsense.
You know, I would have thought by midweek next week that that shortwave, that trough digging down into the Great Lakes, I would have said, oh well, there you go. There's the big change, there's the big kicker for us later in the week, and then it just kind of shears off and weakens, and that's it.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be impressive, and then it just reaches a certain point. It never completely swings eastward at full strength, and it just basically falls apart. So, as you pointed out, it's nothing but warm and humid conditions to very warm and humid conditions over the weekend and into next week. And by the time we get to Wednesday, we do have a cold front that's close by in the Appalachians. It really struggles to get through here because of
Right,
where the upper low is.
right.
So you wonder whether once we get towards, say, later Tuesday or Wednesday, that we might get a front that gets hung up for a while and puts us in the path of some showers and thunderstorms for maybe a couple of days before the whole thing weakens and falls apart after that. I don't know. It's kind of a tough call, I guess, at this stage.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Joe, who said when it's boring? I think it was Casper. Said when it's boring for me, it's great for all of you.
True. There's no truer words spoken. So I'm going to just go bring us back full screen because there really is very little happening.
Yeah.
This is the time of year where it's you know when we're in the fall months, the winter and the spring, and of course during hurricane season when it's going full blast, there's a lot to talk about. But when you're in this time of year where you're looking at, I guess, like you described it yesterday, as the kind of the doldrum time from late spring to the first part of the summer, where you're not likely to have a tropical system to talk about. Weather fronts are going to be few and far between. You're just going to go from day to day, and that's what we have.
One of our people on the chat board, Reaver
Right.
501, he's directing a question to me. He said Al Roker said, excuse me, that the Triad region of North Carolina would be 25 degrees below normal today, and he wants to know where the Triad is. That's actually known as the Piedmont Triad.
You answer that. I'm going to go get my phone so I can pull up the chat on the side. Keep going.
Okay. Okay. Well, the Triad region of North Carolina is also known as the Piedmont Triad. It's a part of the north central region of North Carolina, and yeah, 25 degrees below normal. That's pretty good. It's actually that the triad or the triad. I always call it the triad. Surrounds three major cities: Greensboro, Winston Salem, and High Point in North Carolina. And this is the group of cities that lies within the Piedmont. There used to be, I don't know how many of you remember it. Now I'm really showing my age. There used to be an airline called Piedmont Airlines, and that was one of the main areas that they used to fly down to was the Piedmont Triad, and that forms the basis for the Winston-Salem, High Point, Greensboro combined population centers. So that's what Al Roker was talking about. And how dare you watch Al Roker when you've got Joe and Joe? No,
So
I'm only
Johnny Quest wants to know what a Rex block is. So
God,
basically,
Joe.
Johnny, it's
Not to be confused with the Omega block, right?
right. The Rex block is basically it's an upper high that kind of bananas itself around over the top of an upper low. That really is. That's the look of it.
Right.
I've never known to see how you write the Greek, you know, how what Rex is. Is that a Greek letter? I always forget.
No, it's not.
No, it's
No.
not.
I had a friend who had a German I had a friend who had a German Shepherd named
Named
Rex.
Rex, yeah. But that's what it looks like. So if you have an upper high and then put an upper low underneath it, and you get that sort of banana shape around it. That's
Right.
kind of what a Rex block looks like.
Right.
The Omega block looks like the Greek letter Omega,
Right. It
where
looks like they're a combination of two cutoff lows and
right,
one blocking
and
high.
one
So
blocking high, two cutoff lows on each end, and a blocking high kind of up in the middle there like that.
right. Right.
It's bizarre. Anyhow, so I can also at least now pull up the chairman's questions. I think he's out running deliveries tonight, so I didn't see him on the board, but I do have the phone in front of me, so I can at least go back to yesterday's questions for you, and he sent me some for today.
Right.
Um, okay, so let me go back. Okay, this was the one for yesterday, which I couldn't find. So what was the first two planets discovered? What were the first two planets discovered?
Well, the
I guess beyond Jupiter,
beyond Saturn actually.
beyond Saturn.
Well, they found Uranus or Uranus.
Well, that's a
That
good
was
thing.
discovered by Herschel in I think 1784 or thereabouts, and then the fact that that planet was not keeping to schedule. It was either behind schedule sometimes or ahead of schedule. They said there's another planet out there that's disturbing or perturbing the orbit of Uranus, and that's how they found in 1846 the planet Neptune. For those of you
Right, correct. You
participating,
got the year right too. Very good. What does MASH stand for?
oh, Mobile Army Surgical Hospital,
Two for
right?
two. What is the highest temperature ever recorded at Cape Hatteras, North Carolina?
Ooh, well, on a good strong west wind, even though they're literally surrounded by water, I would I tend to guess I'll say something like, well, let's see, New Orleans once got to 104. I'm gonna throw it out and say like 103,
96.
96.
I would have
Okay,
thought it might have been a little higher than that. What
yeah,
was the lowest temperature ever recorded on the Cape?
I um I will say 27,
6.
26.
Right. And who was on? And this is an easy one. Who was the first? Who was on the first cover of TV Guide?
Oh well, of course, it was Lucille Ball, right?
And 39 times on the cover of TV Guide, the most ever of
Right,
anyone. So
amazing.
that was last night. See, these were tonight's for me.
I do not see anything from the chairman to direct to you.
Okay, I got these here. So I said, what is the highest and lowest temperature ever in Atlanta? All right, but I'm supposed to send him the answers via messenger. What was the first state capital of Georgia? Um, what is the only county in Georgia named after a woman? How many counties are in Georgia? What number state was Georgia to join the Union in 1776? And that's the last question. So I have a history exam to prepare for. Basically, it's a,
Regents,
I don't
the
know.
Regents,
Is it an
right?
open book test? I'm not sure. Uh, so yeah, so we'll see what happens. I'm going to try and answer these when I have a little time later. Did you do anything exciting today?
Not really. Preparing
No.
for my talk in a matter of a half an hour or so. By the way, Tony Piera, who probably will be at the talk because he's a member of the astronomy club,
Tell him
he
I
was
said
saying
hi.
that.
He was asking what the other night because we didn't do a show on Sunday.
Well, he sent me a message 10 minutes ago saying I don't see Joe and Joe, and I said I don't know what you're watching or where you're watching, but we're in the middle of it right now. And he says I see it. I picked the wrong one. Thanksgiving. He's probably scratching his head saying, "Why are we talking about turkeys?" Right?
Yeah, just a review, folks. I don't have any control over the notifications that YouTube sends out. And if we're doing a show at a time when somebody with a million, a gazillion followers puts out a video, there's only a limited number of notifications that YouTube system can put out. So it's possible that you don't get notifications for every time we do a live stream. You can, of course, if you've got the free weather app, I usually, although I didn't do it tonight, I usually put the live stream on the app, so you would get a notification from me. Sometimes those of you who are on the app get notifications from me that Joe and I are on live, but you can watch it on the app itself. Sometimes if you're on Facebook, I'll put the link up before we go up live, but I didn't do that tonight because I didn't have time. Patreon members always get notified of the live streams because I always put the link up there at least 30 minutes before we're about to go on. So that kind of resolves the mystery of the live stream. You've got questions from Briller, by the way, just so you know.
Can't find them. Didn't see them.
Yeah, he can't find them, so they're probably somewhere in Messenger, and they just have to reload somehow. Let's see. Reaver wanted to know, so do these two men watch anything that was made in the last decade? It seems all they do is watch reruns from the 60s. Well, you know what?
Things
I
were better
do.
back then.
Okay, I do. I don't watch. I used to watch a lot of television, and I don't know when it happened, but there was a certain point where I just got bored with it all. It just seemed like everything was a rehash of something that had already been done in one form or another. And I've watched television with friends of mine who can't stand watching TV with me because I'll watch something that's relatively recent, and I can tell them how, without ever having seen the program, I just know how writers write these shows, and I tell them what's going to happen before it's going to before it does, and most times I'm right.
Right.
So I just don't. I don't know. I just don't find a whole lot of originality. That being said, I will tell you that I've been watching Ozark. I did watch the Ozark, which is I thought was terrific and well done. I did also watch. I started watching Hollywood, which is on Netflix, and it's about Hollywood apparently in the 1940s, and there's a lot of familiar people on there, including Robert Parsons from Big Bang Theory, who plays a.
Shoppies can't open Thrill of Jeopardy. Question one: what is the latest date for the first 90-degree day in Central Park history? As everyone knows, dating back to 1869.
Well, there have been years where we haven't gotten to 90 in Central Park. So that's a difficult that's a kind of a difficult question to answer because there have been summers where it has not gotten to 90 in the summer in June, July, or August.
Well, according to Mr. Briller, the chairman, 1877, the first 90-degree day was July 26th,
All right,
1877.
but how do you resolve those years where you didn't get to 90 degrees?
I don't know.
I mean, they're actually surprisingly enough, there's more than you would think there. It happens more often than you think, but I wouldn't describe it as a regular occurrence. I would maybe describe it as I wouldn't say it's a rare occurrence. It's probably an unusual occurrence. But yeah, so I don't know how you would resolve that.
And
Um,
last year we had a pretty late last 90-degree day. Do you remember the last 90-degree day we
wasn't that
had?
in October?
October 2nd.
Right.
That was pretty darn good. 90 degrees in October.
And it
Especially
got
when
pretty cold. It got quite cold, as I recall, a few weeks later.
yeah,
And
it
then, of
did.
course, it got really cold because we got laid off.
Yes, as they say, we
Well,
can
we
laugh
didn't
at
get
now,
laid
right?
off. We didn't get let go. Just say,
Uh,
just checking.
yes.
Um,
The
anyhow,
uh, the other question, which has nothing to do with weather or getting laid off, is in the history of the Academy. It was announced the Academy Awards will be pushed back 2 months to April of next year.
mhm.
In the history of the awards, they were only postponed 3 times. Why?
I
And
am
here's
going to say probably during World War II.
well, the hint. Here are the hints: 1938, 1968, 1981.
38
Yes,
postponed in 38, and then postponed in 68.
right.
Um, I will. Was Martin Luther King assassinated in 1968?
He was.
So is that it was,
That's one of
so
the
that's
three.
one.
That's one.
1938. Hmm. So it would be in the late winter or early spring of 38. I don't think it was the crash of the Hindenburg. So I can't
No,
imagine it would be that.
no, it was not.
Uh, 38. What happened in 38 that was such a
You
would have.
know, you probably would not. I wouldn't know it. You would, even though it's a weather-related uh, problem here. It was postponed in 38 because of massive flooding in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay, yeah, I never would have gotten that. And
And then
and 1981,
right,
1981. All right, so I'm thinking was Mount St. Helens was in 80 or 81?
80.
80, so that ain't it.
I'll give you a hint.
All right.
All right. Sorry, honey, I forgot the duck.
Sorry, honey, I forgot the duck. Sorry, honey, I forgot the duck. I forgot the duck. I forgot the duck or I forgot to duck?
To duck. Yeah,
Oh,
that's what he
to
said.
duck. I
Right.
forgot
Sorry, honey,
to
I forgot the duck.
I forgot to duck.
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm stunned. I'm stifled
The
here.
the attempted assassination of Ronald
Oh,
Reagan,
Ronald Reagan. Yes.
and when he
Mr.
and when he
Hinckley.
and when he saw right
Robert Hinckley, right?
right and when he saw his wife in the hospital,
He said,
his
"I'm
first
sorry, I forgot to duck." Yes,
yeah,
he did. 81 was Ronald Reagan. That's correct.
right, right.
All right, so I guess that wraps it up on a.
Who was
When's the?
Hinckley? Who was Hinckley in fat?
Oh,
Blah.
Jodie Foster.
You're right.
That was
You
pre-Silence of
got
the
the answer
Lambs.
before I could pronounce the question.
Um, that was pre-Silence of the Lambs
Right,
because that didn't come till much later.
and also Contact.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes. Um, oh, there was one other thing. Is there any kind of celestial thing going on? I thought I saw you post something about going to Montauk to see it.
Yeah, Friday morning we're going to have, in essence, an eclipse of the planet Venus. Venus
I hope she doesn't mind, but go on.
around 4 o'clock in the morning, the crescent moon is going to rise. Venus will be already
Okay.
Venus will be behind the moon. Why does this sound overt?
Because I started it by saying I hope she doesn't mind. But go on.
Venus will already be covered by the moon. The moon will be rising. It'll be a thin crescent. Venus will be behind the moon. And then a few minutes after the moon rises, if you're located anywhere east of Riverhead, Long Island, on the Twin Forks of Long Island, you'll be able to see Venus emerge from behind the dark part of the moon. If you don't go out to eastern Long Island or anywhere out into New England, and if you stay, let's say, in the New York area, you will see the moon rise and Venus will already have popped out and be right next to the moon. But it's a moot point because I don't know if you took a good close look, Joe, but from the maps I looked at, it's going to be totally cloudy and maybe even foggy on Friday.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I
whenever you get in a warm, humid air mass on Long Island, usually it doesn't happen so much this time of year. When you get into late July, and particularly in August into early September, it does. But
I
yeah,
said I said to
you're gonna get
Renata,
a lot of you're gonna get a lot of fog in the early morning hours.
this event, this we call it an occultation. Venus is going to be occulted by the moon because the
Oh,
moon is only a quarter of a million miles
well,
away,
she's very
and,
open minded, but go
and
on.
Venus and Venus is about 30 million miles. And so never mind. Anyway,
I'm
uh,
sorry,
these
it's
these
I
things
had to
happen like
go there.
these things only happen like once every 20 or 30 years. And so since we're probably going to miss it on Friday morning, your next chance to see the moon eclipse Venus will be on September 13th in the year 2031. If we're all still here, I'll make sure to remind
Well,
us.
when you just said that happens every 20 or 30 years, there was a marriage joke in there somewhere. So
Yeah.
I let it go. All right, so we'll just leave it at that. Nothing else on the chat board. No other questions before we say goodnight.
Don't see any. Chuck Carlitto, good night. Oh, he's not even saying good night to us. He's saying good night to
Yeah, because he left. He probably
Wikipedia.
left early. If he had to pick up his wife. By the way, we had ribs last night. Tonight we had Chick-fil-A,
Oh,
which I like.
I,
Chick-fil-A is pretty good.
can I?
I had a chicken club sandwich with some waffle fries, a little mac and cheese, and a salad.
Well, tonight I had just we had spaghetti with sausage, spaghetti with marinara sauce, and
Oh,
sausage. So,
that's what I wanted to tell you. So one of the things when you drive down 75 as opposed to when you drive say 95, there are far fewer you know me, I have to read the billboards going down.
right.
So there were fewer billboards. There was a billboard for the Lion's Den. So you could pick up your little, your little toys that you might need for your, you know, Venus moon thing. Um, and there was one that struck me was uh, was for an Italian restaurant, and you know what, it was, I don't know, it was Fabrizio's, or but anyway, it was uh, all you can eat spaghetti for $4.95.
Oh God.
And I'm thinking, I'm not so sure this is going to be the most Italian of Italian restaurants. And
My
that was somewhere in eastern Tennessee. If I think I think where it was just before I crossed the border to go into Georgia.
that reminds me of a place in Lower Manhattan, Vinny's Steak and Spew. It's a great
Vinny's.
place, and Vinny ran it, and it had a sign out front saying all you can drink for $10. Because after the first drink, Vinny comes over and says, "Hey, that's all you can drink."
Yeah, that's all you can try. That's all you're drinking. All right,
And
have a good.
happy birthday to Sonny Fox. Those of you,
Yes.
those of you of a certain age may remember, before Bob McAllister, there was Sonny Fox on Wonderama, and Sonny celebrated the 50th anniversary of his 45th birthday today.
God bless. Happy birthday, Sonny
95.
Fox. A
Amazing.
lot of good memories there from when we were kids.
Yes.
All right, Joe. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks everybody for being here as always. I don't think you're going to find much changing tomorrow, but we'll be here anyway, and we'll see you then.
Joe, if
I,
you want me to class up the thing tomorrow night, I'll wear my tux.
yeah, no, I'm thinking no. It's a little too warm for that.
All
So
right.
let's not do that. All right, I'll
Okay.
see you tomorrow.
Right.